White Mountains. This is Jesse Valencia with WME Theaters, and you are watching Movie Bites. Our guest today is actor-musician James Bilagody, who appears in the film More Than Frybread, which is now playing at the Village 8. Hi, James, and thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Jesse, thank you very much.
So
good morning.
Yes, and good morning. So you've been in a couple films now, including another of Travis Holt Hamilton's, who was on the show the other day, Legends from the Sky and Blue Gap Boys. Coming from a musical coming from a musical background, how did you get hooked up with Travis to make these movies?
We had joint friends, associates, and these friends would work with me on stage and with music and comedy, that kind of stuff. And shout out to Ernest Sosi III. So.
Yeah, we're going to be talking with Ernest tomorrow, I think.
Cool dude. He taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about acting.
Nice. Well, how would you describe your role in More Than Frybread, and what is your favorite memory from during production?
I kind of I would describe it as a urban native gone home in a reservation crowd. I was kind of pushy, spoke fast, tried to be Indian more than it seemed like I was. And yeah, sell it. It was kind of MC work. It was nice to be with friends. I really enjoyed More Than Frybread, the set. Many of them I'd already done work with, and then the fans. We had a lot of fans there because they found out that the stars of the stage were going to be in this movie in Flagstaff. And so a lot of the fans came, and we became not only fans, but friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was a great group. It was a fantastic group. And again, like I said, it was a great learning experience for me. I had a lot of teachers, Travis, Ernie, a lot of teachers that taught me basically how to act.
Yeah. So you hadn't done any acting before that film then?
Well, I did hither and thither. I did a little bit of stuff. There was this old movie called he ran around with bears. I can't remember his name. I did a little bit of acting, but mostly it was no speaking parts and stuff like that. And little private projects that people had. I always had an interest to be in the movies, but these films I did with Travis really made me love acting, and I'm comfortable in front of a camera.
That's like 99% of it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your music. I listened to a little bit of the Cremains. Is that how you say it?
The Cremains, yes.
And I would describe it as indigenous hard rock. How did the idea to blend traditional rhythms and melodies with the conventions of rock and roll come to you?
Well, I have a lifelong need to say to honor the language, Navajo language. And so I had a unique capability since I used to be a Navajo language interpreter in federal court and state courts.
Wow.
And so I had attained this skill to be able to jump back and forth between Navajo language and English language in mid-sentence. And I could use words and do the translation instantly. And so I had the skill. And so as I observed some of the people who were relearning their language or just learning it for the first time, they had a difficult time jumping back and forth. And so we wanted to demonstrate that it's highly possible And so the songs that I wrote uh, has a line of English, and then it'll have the translation in Navajo, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what opened the door. And then of course the culture comes with it, and then of course I sing what some people call traditional music. Real traditional people don't call it traditional music
Yeah.
because because
You're
I'm really
using
a
a
white.
guitar.
Yeah. Well, I'm also really a white guy. I look like a Navajo, but I always joke with my relatives. Oh, yeah, I'm a white guy, and they always go, oh, okay. So when you lose your culture, that's what happens. You become someone else.
Yeah, so that's a cool way to kind of introduce the culture to maybe more even young people through music, because we're familiar with these rock styles, but when you add some traditional things into it, it kind of helps nurture that.
Yeah, total credit to the Cremains, and my nephew's the lead singer. Total credit to the Cremains for any kind of rock style that was in there. I knew a little bit about traditional part of the music, but the Cremains, they're awesome. They're awesome folks.
Yeah, they
And then
are.
there was you mentioned children. Uh, we did some songs about prayer, Navajo prayer, and I remember the first time I heard a second or third grader, I can't remember which, singing the song, and I I didn't know how to act. It's
That's awesome.
amazing that all of a sudden this little second or third grader is going, "Sisna chini so dog o asrid the bensa zikna ho atisi and chon ne about fell over." He was singing this song, and his enunciation was perfect. It was perfect, and I was thinking, it works.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful, man. That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, and that's the beginning words of a Navajo, many of the Navajo prayers, which is identifying the sacred mountains.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my reaction. Wow, I just couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Well, there's
Yeah,
hope then for the future
yeah, there
generations.
really is. There really is.
Decolonization, man. That's right.
Yes, there you go.
Where do you see the future of independent film going, and how can we make more room for indigenous stories?
um, the technology. I come from a time when um, it was mostly wagon and horses. I recall in my community where there was only two individuals that had vehicles, trucks. And I recall thinking that uh, seeing the satellite and watching it behave different than a star, and we thought it was magic. And from that era to now is amazing. It's amazing. And in the area of independent films, the technology has grown leaps and bounds. It's just amazing. Um, if people 60 years ago saw what's going on with independent films now, they would think it was magic. And I hope that the films that we produce about indigenous folks also grows leaps and bounds. We have a lot of fine artists. We need to give the artists the credit that they are due, because they do really good work, but it just kind of subsides into the all of the noise that's on Earth. Um, but there's some breaking through, that are doing well. But there's some fine artists out there that we just never recognize, and I think that will help independent films in terms of um, indigenous kind of information. So we need to have more people behind the camera, and we need more people in front of the camera. Independent films gives us a chance, gives anybody a chance. That's what I like about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like I'm an auto mechanic by trade. So when I was fixing that 57 Chevy, I didn't know I was going to be in front of a camera. I didn't know I was going to be on Grizzly Adams playing with bears,
Yeah. What is one of your favorite memories of seeing a movie in a theater?
Um, I there used to be a school back in the old days in my little community. The school would provide an opportunity to see a film. I think it cost a nickel to get in and a nickel for a bag of popcorn. Well, I had a cousin brother, and we really liked the movies, and we'd go, and he'd he'd sit in his seat and he'd go like this. He'd be doing this during the whole movie. And finally I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I measure the people on the screen because it's like magic. They're this big and then they're this little," and he was measuring the little figures. And again, that is the world of magic to reality, where we finally grew into understanding what movie making was all about. And that's my favorite memory. I always think about my cousin brother measuring the figures on screen.
That's awesome. Is there is there anything else you'd like to say to our moviegoers in the White Mountains before they see more than Frybread?
Well, I'd like to say, see it twice or three times, because each time you'll get a better perspective, a more thorough perspective of Native life, Native humor, and and the reward is you experience a great movie. And try to pick up on some of the lingo.
Yeah.
they say Navajo is hard and difficult, but English is a lot more difficult.
Oh, I think I don't even understand English, and it's my primary language. Well, thank you so much, James. And for those watching, More Than Frybread, starring our guest James Bilagody, is now playing at the WME Village 8. I'm Jesse Valencia, and thank you for tuning into Movie Bites.